Hello and welcome to another video. My name's Mark, I'm an entrepreneur and property investor, and in this video we're going to be talking about how your first 4 houses are the most important purchases when you're building your bedrock of wealth. Now before we get into the video, I want to say a big thank you to all those who have subscribed. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing and clicking that bell notification so that you get notified every time I put a new video out. And if you could possibly click the like button, it really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, so I'll massively appreciate it, and it's free to do so. So let's get into the video and let's have a look at my first 4 houses and how those have worked out for me and how you can use that model to potentially help you. So straight off the bat, I want to say that my first 4 houses, the first 2 were not planned as investments. They've worked out well, but they weren't planned that way. So I think that you can do better than I've done. But that said, I want to talk through number 1 first of all. And I'm going to take you to the next 2, but the first one is up in London. And due to COVID, I don't think it's sensible me driving all the way across the country in order to just show you the outside of a house. But my first property was based over in a town called Erith, in the borough of Bexley, which is just outside of London. And we bought a 3-bedroom property there for £176,000. Today, that house is worth £375,000 to £400,000. So a huge profit on a capital appreciation scale. But it really did set the foundations of my wealth. How, Mark? Tell us! We need to know, I hear you scream. Well, I'll tell you all about it, and then what we'll do is we'll jump in the car, we'll go and have a look at my second property and my third property, which I purchased down in a town called Didcot, which is just down the road from where I am now. And I actually need to pop to both of those properties and take an exterior photo of both of them anyway. So it's a kill 2 birds with 1 stone kind of scenario. But let's talk about the first one. So, I bought this 3-bedroom over in Erith. At the time, we could have afforded either a 3-bedroom in Erith or we could have afforded a 1-bedroom studio in Canada Water, which was where I was working at the time. So we decided that we would go for the 3-bedroom in Erith for one main reason. And now I'm thinking about it, when I said earlier on that the first 2 investment properties weren't bought as investment properties, that's not strictly true, because we bought that 3-bedroom in Erith because we had 2 spare bedrooms. And we knew that we could rent each room out for between £500 and £600 a month. And with a mortgage that was only £650 a month, we were essentially going to be living there completely free and be able to save up a deposit for our second property. As it turns out, we made an absolute killing with the rentals. It went really, really well, and we did in fact manage to save up quite a sizable amount of money at the same time as living a very good lifestyle. So we don't feel like we missed out at all during that period, just had the additional income to provide a little bit extra capital for the rest of our journey. Which really started with property 2, which I'll take you to. Look at this, walking down the driveway, and I'm genuinely not trying to boast or do anything like that, but it's just beautiful returning home and having this driveway and this house. I know we're building something else at the moment, but I'm still very attached to our home at the moment. And no, I absolutely love it here. But let's head over to Didcot. Let's have a look at property 2 and 3. So here we are outside one of my houses in Didcot, and this property I purchased back in 2015. So what we did was we bought a 4-bedroom detached property here, and when we moved out of our property in London, in Erith, we rented that out. So I lived here on this Taylor Wimpey estate for about 4 years, and I really enjoyed my time here. But during that time, obviously we moved out of the property in Erith, we rented that out as a single let, but we also were able to do some capital raising. So we actually managed to refinance out of the property in Erith over £100,000, and that went to buying property number 3. So we ended up actually going from 1 to 3 properties very, very quickly. And I think this is why they say the first 4 properties are so important. It's because once you hit property number 4, the snowball of capital appreciation and rental income really starts to gain momentum, and you're refinancing them every couple of years and you're getting that momentum really flowing. So the wealth just starts to flow through. So as I said, I lived here for about, 4 or 5 years, something like that. before I moved out into my house that you see at the moment. And during that period, I obviously built up my businesses and we bought about another 5-6 houses. So we did quite a lot in that period of time. But as I said, this was central to building that because it allowed me to capital raise from property one. Today, the property you see behind me is a 6-bedroom HMO. So we took it from a 4-bed detached property to a 6-bed HMO, fully licensed, and it generates about £4,200 a month of gross income, and that nets off at about 2,200, something like that per month. But when we finish this tour, I'll go back to the whiteboard and we'll put up all of these 4 first houses and we'll have a look at the capital appreciation, because again, that one's gone up by over 100,000. We'll look at the capital appreciation, we'll look at the rental income, the rental return over life, and we'll really get an idea of how much money these properties have made me over the period of ownership. So we're at property number 3 and it's just down the road in Didcot, and actually while I was here my building team are also here and they were just fixing the boiler. But property number 3 I purchased back in 2017, so I've had it for about 4 years now, and that one's currently rented out as a 5-bedroom HMO. So that brings in about £3,300 a month of gross. Net would probably be about 1,800, something like that, maybe 1,700. So really good profit figures. It's been revalued this year, 2020, last year. We've only just gone into 2021 and it was revalued at 400. So really happy with that revaluation figure. And this one really helped me spur on the HMO model. So before I'd done this property, I hadn't got any HMOs. I had only got a single let in Erith, remember, because I'd bought the second house and I was living in it. So property number 3 was my first own HMO, and I really got quite a good deal on it. Although a new build, and quite often new builds you can't get very good deals on, I managed to negotiate they would pay my stamp duty, they would pay for all the additionals, all the legals, everything was paid for me. And because I was buying a second property, the stamp duty was significant. It was about 18,000 or something, or 19,000. It was a lot of money. It was 350 we paid for this. So I got a good deal on it. I was really happy with that. And yeah, there goes the building team. Off they go. If you ever see those guys, that's Legacy. That's my company that I own about 30% of it, and we buy, renovate, and then rent out. End-to-end solution for investors. So if anybody's interested in that, have a look in the description. You can get a one-to-one consultation with me free of charge, and I'll tell you all about it if you want to. Obviously there is no pressure whatsoever on that, but yeah, so this was my 3rd property that I purchased. My first HMO, it went really well. Obviously COVID, unfortunately, round here, COVID's hit quite hard. We have an international science park just up the road, and most of my tenants were situated there. So the rent's taken a little bit of a hit. We haven't managed to maintain full occupancy. We've had to cut our prices, but we've already noticed, now we're in February, there's an influx of people who are going to be starting work in March, April and May, starting to contact us. So I'm confident that the figures will return on this one, my one just up the road, and another one I've got in the town in the coming weeks and months. But yeah, this was my first HMO and really did spur me on for property number 4, which I will go and show you now. So I'm back home, and my 4th property was actually up in Sheffield. I'd miscalculated. I was going to show you another house in Didcot, but actually my 4th property was up in Sheffield. And this was my first move into buying cheaper properties and using them as HMOs. So I bought that property for £100,000, well 99,000, and we spent about 5-10,000 doing it up, and we rented it out for £1,500 a month. Now today we're renting it out for about £1,600-1,700 a month. Rents have gone up a little bit. The value of the property I would estimate at somewhere around 120,000, although we did get it revalued during the pandemic at 107. But I know that was a harsh valuation back in May, and I know that properties are selling for much more now. Prices have moved at least 10% since then. And on top of that, the valuer had cited COVID as a reason for decreasing the value of the property anyway. So I think 120, 130,000, something like that, it would be worth today. And it's fully rented out, it's fully occupied, it's going very well. So that was my first kind of move from the HMO model that I learnt in Didcot, transposing that up north, and then putting a team in place to start managing my properties with me. So Scott, as I said earlier, started Legacy with me, and we started putting teams in place. But now we're back. Let's go and have a look at the actual hard figures. I've set up the studio so we can get straight into it, and it's nice and warm in here so I can get the jacket off. Let's look first of all at property number 1. Now we purchased that for 176,000 and today it's worth 400,000. So there's a good capital profit in there of 224,000 by quick maths. We've also had it for 10 years, and during that 10 years, we've rented it out for 5 of those. No, in fact, we rented it out pretty much for the whole 10 years, at about £1,000 a month. So more recently, we were getting about £1,500 a month. At the beginning, we were getting 1 room when we rented out our first room, but I would say it would have averaged out to about £1,000 a month over the course of 10 years, which is another 120 grand. So that property alone will have made us somewhere in the region of £344,000. I mean, that is a ridiculous amount of money. And you can see why the first of the first 4 houses is so important. We now look at property 2. And this was bought in 2015, and this was bought for 400,000. Actually, I think it was 395. But I'll put 400,000 just as a nice round figure. We had it revalued recently at 500k. So over the course of that period, it's gone up. However, that revalue took place about 2 years ago. So I would estimate it's probably worth more like 525, 550 now. It's now a 6-bed HMO. So in capital appreciation, it's given us about 100,000. And we've also rented it out for the last 2 years as a 6-bed HMO, and it's clearing about £25,000 a year. So there's probably another £50,000 in that, and that's made us 150k as well. Just after property 2, we bought property 3, and this was back in 2016. And that one we purchased for 350. That one's been revalued, as I said, at 400k. So there's 50k of capital appreciation, and on top of that, we've had it rented out for the whole 5 years, making us about 25k a year. So we're looking at about 150k total profit again on that one. And then our 4th property up in Sheffield. Now this was a more recent purchase, so obviously the capital appreciation won't be as high, the rental profit won't be as high either because it was a cheaper property, but we bought it for 100k. And the capital appreciation, I'm going to just put down as 20k. I think it's somewhere between 20 and 30, but we have spent some money on doing some repairs. So I'm just going to say 20k as a nice round figure. Important to say we've had to do pretty much nothing with this, and nothing with this, mainly because those 2 were both new builds, so they came pretty much done. And this property we bought as a mortgage repossession, and it was in great condition anyway. So we just put a new kitchen in when we first moved in, a new bathroom, and just put some new carpets in. And since then, we've done absolutely nothing. But property 4, we spent about 5,000–10,000 on. Again, very little in the big scheme of things. It's probably made us about £700 a month for the last 3–4 years, something like that. So I'd say there's a 20k capital profit. There's probably about 30k of rental profit, and that would probably give us a 50k profit there or thereabouts. Okay, so just adding this up really quickly, I can see there's 300,000, 650,000, 700,000 of profit. So if we look at my first 4 housing and what that's meant for me, it's actually meant about 700k of capital appreciation and rental profit over the last 10 years. And that is just incredible. Some people will work a lifetime to earn this sort of money, and all I've done is taken money from here, put it into here, taken money from these 2, put it into here, taken money from these 3, put it into here. And it's just the snowball started. Today, 10 years after purchasing my first property, I now own 13 properties with a value of somewhere in the region of 3.3 million, somewhere around there. Plus, I've obviously got this development project in place with my family, which is another couple of million. So it all starts the snowball from this very first property. And that's why they say your first 4 properties are so essential. So have you bought your first property yet? If you have, tell me all about it in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've tried to be as transparent as I possibly can. And I know these figures are a little bit generalized and a little bit round, and we can pick them all apart. But that's not the point. The point really is to understand how the momentum starts through purchasing these first 4 houses. So thank you so much. My name's been Mark Parham. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you again on Monday.